Welcome everyone to episode 54 of the Bunker Talk. Super excited to have my friend here, my new friend. Kind of new.
Yeah.
A little bit new. We knew of each other.
We've gone from acquaintances
yes.
to friends.
Now we know what kind of cookies we like. They're not the same, and it's a source of contention in our relationship.
At least we could split them.
Yeah, right. Actually, you know what? You're right. It actually should bring us closer.
Agreed.
Because we would never eat each other's cookie. I eat the black part. He likes the white part of the black and white cookies.
Yes.
What about the Oreos? I think we already went through this too. You like the white Oreos.
I mean, probably both can agree that the cream in the middle is the best.
Yeah, it's true. Tell everybody who, I haven't even given anybody your name and now they know your cookie preference. Tell everybody who you are, what you do.
Hey, everybody. I am Chad Tourin, the founder of KINNECT Financial. Pretty much, I'll let you kind of, elaborate a little bit on what I do. It's a little bit of a jack of all trades. No pun intended. We really connect the dots for our clients with their financial strategies, their tax strategies, and their legal strategies to make sure that all are working together towards one common cohesive goal.
And so tell everybody how your trajectory in a quick 60-second wrap up here of, obviously you like school. You do like to learn, right?
I do.
Attorney, CPA, now in this position. How and why?
Well, my father was a CPA, so I grew up surrounded by, that world. And although I wasn't sure if I was going to end up practicing as a CPA, which I did for a number of years, I knew that it would be the best business background that I can get. And so I went to the University of Florida, got my bachelor's and master's in accounting there, and was going to actually go right to law school then, but my mom unfortunately got sick. And so I ended up practicing as a CPA so I could also help take care of her, which is also why my affinity to the daily drip, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point, and being involved in really helping women was kind of a passion of mine. And then once it kind of reached the point where I realized, okay, I'm not married, have no kids, no real obligations. I was 28 and said, if I don't go to law school now, it's probably never going to happen. And probably about halfway through my first semester, I realized I'm surrounded by all of these really, really smart people that are going to be most likely successful. Not everyone that goes to law school ends up successful.
There's still C students, right?
There are.
Yeah.
Those are usually the better attorneys.
Correct. Correct.
And being that I had the CPA and financial background, it was kind of this aha moment where I said, you know what, I'm going to become an attorney, but the entire time I'm here, I'm going to take every business law class I can, every tax law class I can, so that when I get out, I'm going to start a financial planning practice, which happened at the end of 2013.
Wow. You've been in the game for a while.
I have.
And so
the gray hairs are starting to show a little bit.
Tell everybody about KINNECT. Why? I mean, I know the name. I think it's brilliant. But what does it mean? What is it? Why KINNECT?
So one of the other things once I started in the industry was I realized that a couple things. One was that people were very, very focused on one part of their planning without really thinking about how does that impact other aspects of their planning, right? So as an example, they might be getting a great rate of return in an investment and not realizing they might be paying the highest possible tax on that investment, actually ending up with a lower rate of return than someone else might be getting in a less risky investment. The same holds true with legal strategies and where assets are positioned, and nobody was really talking. Professionals weren't talking. We've talked about this, that a true plan for someone really requires the collaboration amongst a lot of professionals. The insurance person, the planner, the CPA, the attorney, the banker, the list can go on and on and on. And many times you end up with contradictory advice. You can have the CPA telling you one thing and the financial advisor telling you another.
Right.
And now you're ending up with a myriad of strategies that may not be communicating well together. So KINNECT was kind of founded on a few things. One, the connection and collaboration of your strategies, the connection and collaboration of your professional advisors. The part that people don't think about a lot of times is what's the connection of what I'm doing with my family, right? And how is my wealth affecting my family, and how will it transition to future generations? And then probably my biggest passion in my area of expertise is making sure that the business wealth is connecting with your personal wealth, because we find far too often that business owners build a great business and neglect to do their personal planning, and things can go wrong in business. Industries can change, laws can change, your business might not sell. And if any of those things happen, your entire net worth can disappear. So it really was connecting all of those moving parts. And then from a meaningful standpoint, I'm very big on relationships and family and friends. And so, the spelling of connect is actually KIN, really to deal, to hint on or to hit on the relationship component of the planning.
And so I have so many questions for you from a business perspective, obviously, right? So the premise of the podcast is my industry is very supportive for agency owners, right? We have a lot of communities that support us. There's not a lot of gatekeeping, at least in this newer generation of agent, right? Maybe the older people held their secrets a little bit, their secrets of success. But I think even generationally, you might see that in your field. Colleagues tend to, share what's working, share what they tried, how they failed. Some industries, though, are not that, from what I've heard. And so I thought, well, besides cutting down my networking time, right, I can have someone here and their full attention and highlight them for an hour, but also just to be able to offer some advice for business owners that are new in business, not necessarily just young in age, but any age, starting in business, that don't know the answers, or don't have the support. And so I always like to ask the question, especially from people like you that support so many business owners, and that you've seen good ones, you've seen bad ones.
Oh yeah.
You've seen good ones maybe lose their businesses. You've seen bad business owners scale quickly by accident, right? What would you say is the common thread in between your successful business owners that you've helped?
I would say a few things. One of the biggest is that, and you hear this a lot, it almost is probably going to sound cliche, is that the most successful business owners know what they're really good at and know what they're not, and they hire or work and collaborate with others that are very, very good in the areas that they're not good in. That is a common thread amongst industries, amongst different size companies in the same industry. It's so important because if you're not doing what you're best in, you're spending your time doing something else maybe that you shouldn't be doing.
I agree. And I think that's really good, obviously very good advice. Now, how does somebody do that? Because that's
one
kind of
requires
like
self-awareness.
Correct.
Right.
It's kind of like a pie in the sky, right? It's like, delegate what you're bad at. But when you're
requires
starting,
self-awareness, it requires not having an ego. It requires an understanding that sharing in revenue can lead to a lot more revenue instead of just focusing and trying to get 100% of the pie yourself, because your time is freed up to do what you're best at. So, for someone who's getting, just starting out, right, it's difficult because when you're just starting out in a business, you don't know where that next meal is coming from many times, right? And so now many times your interests are kind of competing against each other. It's like, I got to eat, but I know I need to be, like if we're talking about, collaborating and sharing, then you might not be eating as much at that particular meal, in that analogy. So, I think for people getting started, it's one, I truly believe that there should be some financial cushion that you have, either through built up savings or through family support or through lines of credit or capital, however it may be, so that you don't have that salesman type feel with everyone you're talking to, and you could take a step back and think about what's best for the business, and not really your own personal survival, really. I mean, I'm trying to think back to 13, 14 years ago. So, it's been a journey, but that's probably the best advice is you should start a business from a position of strength, unless you just happen to be one of the lucky that stumble upon a brilliant idea, and there are those quick exits you hear of.
Sure.
But if you want to build a business that's going to last, it's the marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
And success doesn't happen overnight. And so it's having that patience and I truly think not, going back to not having an ego about things is really, really important.
I've heard, I've read a couple books about this stuff, and one of them is that concept of like business owners tend to ask, how am I going to get to the next phase, instead of asking who can help me, right? And so like that next hire should be someone that is the who of how to get to that next level, instead of just a strategy of how. The person can be the strategy.
Absolutely.
And so that actually helped me here in the little bit of scaling that I've done in finding who can I offload the tasks that drain my energy and that don't need me to do.
Yeah.
Like I do them because I've been in control for 6 years.
I saw walking into the studio, the book Traction out there.
Yep.
Right. The whole thing in that book is right person, right seat.
Correct.
And it kind of does align with that, where, I guess it's a little bit off from the delegation topic, but as you're kind of growing and looking to scale and build, you have to make sure that the people you're hiring fit within your overall big picture vision. And so even going back to your first question, having a clear idea of where you want to go with your business, not just in the next 1, 2, 3 years, but a 10-year plan and something that you reevaluate all the time, because I can tell you firsthand, my path has clearly changed, from when I finished college until now, in terms of, what I'm doing, and the people I'm working with, and the type of clients I'm working with.
I would say that one of the hardest things is you start a business, you do it all, right? Because you have to. And then it's that removal of yourself and finding. Traction is a great book.
Which I'm sure you still experience, right? That removal is still, you have this pit in your stomach, like, are they going to do it how I'm going to do it? Are they going to drop the ball?
Correct.
And it's a trust, it's a leap of faith many times, and realizing that everything will be okay as long as you're right person, right seat type approach,
and you're
organized. And I also think, and this is said a lot also in different books and from different industry experts, is hiring before you need to hire. Because if you wait until you need to hire, your existing clients are going to suffer because they're not going to get the service they need, because you're just constantly you're growing.
You also might bad hire out of desperation. You're not hiring for
Correct.
the seat, right? It just might be a desperation hire, and that's hiring and firing is its
That's
own.
one of the biggest, as a business owner, that's probably one of the biggest, not challenges, but things that I've tried different ways and failed and succeeded. And, it takes a while to learn how to hire and how to fire, and, knowing what you're looking for.
I think that, so again, we start this business because either the industry, like you said, you have a skill set maybe, or you're just taking a chance. That's fine. But there's so much more. People, I think, always relate strategy to like sales only, right? But in theory, there's a strategy to hiring. There's a strategy to documenting your SOPs, right? Because that's the other part.
Compensation is
its own strategy depending on your industry. Are you doing, if it's a sale in my industry, I'm sure you're familiar. The conversations in the Facebook groups are always, I'm going to hire a producer. How are you guys compensating? Is it salary plus
I know it's
commission?
a little bit different industries. The words like agent and all these things, to me, I think it's why 80% of the people probably out there have a negative connotation about financial advisors, because they think, what is this person selling me?
Correct.
Right. And that's probably one of the biggest differentiators in terms of, I think, where KINNECT's been successful and I've been successful, is everything is a consultation. It's not a sale. It's mapping out a plan and then finding solutions to fit within that plan.
It's so hard. It's so hard because while you're doing all this and you're thinking about all this, you're still the person in the seat selling, or you're still the person in that restaurant making the pizza, right? There's
two hats as a business owner. You have your role as at least in the industry, it's you're the advisor, and then you're also the business owner, and they're two different jobs entirely.
What do you think the skill set of the business owner, of a successful one? So there's obviously delegation, no ego on that side of it, but like, what else do you think that really the most successful ones that you have worked with, what's the skill set that they possess? Is it like a cutthroat sales?
It's the opposite. It's the exact opposite. It's the ability to have empathy, to, focus or to listen to what your people are telling you, to take feedback, to ask for feedback, to treat the people that work for you as if they're your clients, especially if they're going to be working with your clients.
Correct.
There's it's a different, from being a financial advisor to owning a business is like two separate worlds entirely.
I have a friend recently that he owns a pretty large agency out in Alabama. And he said, I work for my employees so that my employees work for my clients. And I was like, that's really good. When you word it that way and you realize that you should be their support instead of like a dictator, right? Like he just put it in a way, and he's building a huge team, and he's scaling, and emphasis on culture. That stuff is so hard to build. Yeah. And it's hard because everyone is motivated by different things. How do you do it?
Culture matters.
It matters
right?
so much.
So knowing what culture you want.
I would say now more than ever, right? Because the younger people that are coming into the workforce, you have to have a culture. They're not going to work an 8 to 5.
Which is also interesting because they're entering the workforce now post-COVID when people are working from their homes.
Correct.
And it's really hard to build culture when you're not actually interacting with people.
Right. So what you got? What's the best piece of advice for that? Building culture.
One is knowing what kind of culture you want. That's first and foremost. And then deliberately doing things to make that come to fruition, whether it's offsite retreats, whether it is getting together once a week in person, whether it is, doing events together.
Right.
You have to still have that connectivity to build, I think, to truly build culture.
I think that I think that's why the human aspect of any business is the most challenging. It's not product, it's not sales, it's not leads. It's really just scaling by human beings that you can't control. Ultimately, you're trusting them.
Sure.
Right. And especially when you have a large team, everyone's not motivated by the same thing. So it's like, how do you get so many people with so many different motivation points? Somebody just wants time off. Somebody wants more money. The other person wants to leave or whenever, a 4-day work week. They want to work remote.
I think it's asking those people.
Right.
How many people actually ask
Correct.
people that work for them what it is that drives them and motivates them? Because I think if you're a successful business owner and you ask that and you do it, the business is gonna succeed.
And so in culture, I have a very small team, so I'm not, it hasn't been a problem for me yet, but.
Another great book to write down would be The 6 Types of Working Genius.
Oh, I haven't.
Really
haven't
helps with culture.
Yeah.
One of my best clients I've been working with for years, the CEO of the company recommended it to me, and there's an assessment in there that your whole team could take.
Oh, that's great.
And it's not even just for business. There's antidotes in the book about, husband and wife doing this together. That oh my God, I didn't realize that's how she thought about this. That's a task I should be doing, and vice versa.
Oh, that's good. I'm going to read it. There's a layer of scaling and culture, but there's also a layer of accountability, right? And so then I've heard from people that have larger teams and successful teams with good, strong culture, people want accountability. There's a layer to everyone. You have to hold people to standards in order to bring the top performers out of everyone,
sure.
Right? What is your best advice for accountability when it comes to a team?
I'd say first is knowing if that's something you're good at.
I'm so bad at it.
I am awful at it.
Okay, good.
Right. And it's one of the reasons why
We're in company, then.
One of the reasons why now, talking about knowing what you're good and bad at, I'm looking for a COO. Someone who could run the operations and hold the other advisors accountable, hold me accountable.
Right. I need it
You
too.
met Craig right now. Craig keeps me accountable.
Yeah.
The other day he's like, Chad, you need more assistance. You need help. And without having someone to be that sounding board or someone who you trust that when they say something, you're going to listen to it and digest it and not just react in a defensive way.
Right.
Really, really makes a difference.
And I think that it kills culture of a team when you have some carrying the load and then the others are not being held accountable.
I think the other part of accountability is expectations, right? It's hard to hold someone accountable if they don't know what you're expecting of them.
To be unclear is to be unkind. When I heard that the first time, I was like, oh, that's really heavy when you think about it, because it's like you're getting frustrated because someone's not performing the way you want them to, but do they understand how you want them to?
Right.
It's your own fault.
Absolutely.
Right? A lot of this stuff too is when you realize that, things don't get done. If you're frustrated with your employees because things aren't getting done the way you want them done, how have you trained them?
Sure.
How well have you trained them? Which it's probably not as well as we assume, speaking from experience. Right? It's part of this working in versus working on the business, which it's tough.
I set aside 3 hours a week to work on the business. Email goes off, phone goes off. People know I'm going to be off the grid, and it allows me to kind of focus in. What
day do you do it?
Fridays.
I have to do that. I actually have been thinking about it, and I was like, I think I need to take some scheduled time to work. I mean, I do it with my content. Why wouldn't I do it for that? So I definitely have to do that. Hold me accountable to that.
I will.
All right. So talked a little bit about business here. So let's talk about business owners and their finances. Let's talk about it, right? That's what you could talk about with your eyes closed, right? Tell me what
I had to make sure I drank away from
Yeah. Thank you. Because gross.
I listened to instructions.
Thank you. I like that. Where does a business owner start with this journey of, I mean, I know you specifically help business owners, but anybody listening to this, I mean, I'm pretty sure the advice is widespread here of when, is it ever too early to start with your finances? Where do you start?
It's ironic that you're asking that question, because right before I came here, I was giving a presentation to a bunch of graduate physical therapy students at Nova. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about people that are just in debt,
Tremendous
debt.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what do we do?
Right.
And one of the things I pulled up is, and it's never too early to start, and that's where I was going with this is, one of the things we talked about is if you had a 25-year-old and that 25-year-old saved for 10 years just at $100 per month, and you could plug in any number you want to this. And then you had another person who waited until age 35 but saved for 30 years. They both end at 65. If they got identical rates of return, the 25-year-old who only saved for 10 years would actually end up with more money. Compounding of money, as simple as it sounds, that's the oldest financial advice there is, really does pay off over time. So I don't think it's ever too early to start.
Is it ever too late? Or is today just the day?
It's not too late, but you're going to have to save more.
Okay.
And probably take on more risk, depending on what your goals are.
Right. And none of this is financial advice, guys. So
nope.
This is just education on the concepts, right? Because, I mean, even family-wise, right? Like my parents were responsible with money. I don't know that I ever heard that they had a financial planner or someone, probably until they sold the business. And when my dad was selling the business, he was like, I need a financial planner because I don't want to waste this money.
I'm a CPA and I'm not my own CPA. Right. Talk about knowing where you want to spend your time, what you're good at.
Right.
And so, there's no such thing as starting too early or getting advice too soon.
And so then what do we do? Like how does a business owner, like you said, one of the strong points of KINNECT is marrying the two, right? The business success with personal finances. How does somebody manage that? What's the best, or instead of asking what's the best, let me ask you what shouldn't we do as business owners with our personal, and our business finances? What's the bad thing to do?
Well, one is I wouldn't put your personal life at risk for the business unless you're just unbelievably, again, not financial advice, but because everything is, very, very customized.
Sure.
But you want to make sure you're doing things from a position of strength, because then you might be taking undue risk on the business side that might lead you down a path of bad decisions, trying to make up for either money lost or time or the list can go on and on. Before we kind of went to the what would you not do, as you're starting a business, I think it's important to decide, do you envision having a lifestyle business or having an enterprise business? They're entirely different things, right? So someone in our business, right, we don't have to own our own business. We can have our own practice and be very successful in it, but not be building anything that 10, 15, 20 years down the road you can sell for value because you are the business. That's a lifestyle business, right? You can become very wealthy doing that, but the way you run that kind of business is entirely different from a strategic standpoint, from a cash flow and an accounting standpoint, than an enterprise business where you're trying to build enterprise value in something that someone else can acquire one day.
It's a lot. It's a lot because I think a lot of...
And that can evolve over time also.
Right. I think that in our industries, especially the lifestyle business, is very easy because residual income, it's flexible, you have flexibility of time, flexibility of everything, right? And so I think that one of the saddest days in an owner's life is realizing they run a lifestyle business at the point of sale.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
If
they didn't plan for it.
Right? Exactly.
Like to your point.
Or if that's not what they wanted.
Correct. To your point of even in my space, there's a lot of, for example, aggregators that you can join or clusters that you can join, and they're basically franchises, right? And so many people, they're desperate to start. They love the support, but then it's like at exit, you realize, oh my God, the percentage, or I have to sell it to them first. Correct. And then it's just like, it's so sad to find that out. It's sad to find it out at the exit that's all of this work was not how you wanted it.
Well, and one of the most common things, whether it's an enterprise value or a lifestyle business, is that every business owner thinks their business is worth more than it actually is. Everyone. It's the same way that every parent thinks their kid is the most, not mine are, I'm kidding, but every parent.
Yours actually are.
Every parent knows the kid is the most adorable, smartest, you name it, because it's yours. Right. And you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it.
How often should a business owner get their business evaluated, would you say? Just to have a pulse on it.
So I think we can break that down into two different components, right? There's professional valuations, which I would say can be done less frequently, right? Maybe once every couple of years. Those cost a good amount of money, usually $15,000, $20,000. Oh, wow. So every couple of years, if you're building an enterprise business, or if as you're getting closer to wanting to exit, right? Maybe more frequently. But there are a lot of tools out there that, without having to go through a formal evaluation exercise, you can get an approximate idea of what your business is worth. And that I do for every business owner once a year.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know that. That's great. Well, tell me what else you do with Kinnect for business owners.
That's actually going to be demoed probably next month with the delegate.
Nice. Oh, well, give me the date. I got to go.
I will.
That's all. Well, the thing is that, and this is, I obviously don't know who you serve client base wise, but obviously, so many people in your space want to work with like the millionaires, right? Like the people that have so many assets and so many things. And it's just like, and that's fine, right? We're all here to make a living and make a business, but there's such a. What's
interesting about that though? Go ahead. Cut you off. The people that have the millionaire net worth and all that stuff, many times it's not in anything from a investment or product or strategy standpoint that an advisor can advise on, unless you're actually just acting in an advice planning based capacity. So for example, a business might be worth $20 million, but if that's all the business owner has, what is a financial advisor going to do that is not able to do all these value added services to help that business owner grow their wealth or extract it from their business itself? Or someone who's in real estate. There's not, many times there's not much that can be done. So I think understanding where your net worth is and where it's coming from is also a really, important component. That's why for most business owners, whether it is buy-sell planning, exit planning, key person planning, right? If your significant portion of your net worth is tied up in your business, that business is your biggest asset, right? And I don't need to tell you what we do with assets, whether it's auto, home, practices, whatever it may be. You protect those assets, right? And buy, sell, and key person planning is the way a business owner protects their asset.
We're gonna go there. We're gonna talk about that because I want you to explain the differences and which one is needed when. But I just wanted to say that to your practice and to Connect itself and what you're doing, I think it's special because of that, right? Like you're helping people in the building stages, which is awesome. First of all, for us, right? And it's also just one of these things where it's like anybody, especially where we live, right? There's a lot of people with a lot of money down here.
Yep.
And
or down here, it might be they want you to think they have a lot of money.
Correct. but there is a lot that that there's a lot of solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, that have businesses where they're making a decent amount of money and they're so busy working in that they do not take the time to do this. And you're going to exit your business guaranteed, death or sell.
Yep.
So
the sale can be broken down further into external versus internal. Right? Is there that person inside your company that you can transition it to, or are you, if not, because the internal way is many times easier.
Right. And so why do you think it is that so many business owners don't take the time to do this? Because like we know we're going to exit, death or a sale, right? Like there's an exit coming or a succession. You plan for how many don't? So many don't.
That's the answer.
Why?
Like any sort of planning or not even planning, people like immediate gratification, right? And the best way to plan for an exit is the day you start for a business.
Right.
But to think that far down the road or to divert capital away from something that might get you an immediate return to play the long game, people don't think that way. And that's, I think, one of the biggest roles an advisor can play is to highlight these things and to play it out.
Right. To show what it looks like.
Or at least educate them on where the exposure is. Like I'm a big believer in educating the client on their situation, identifying the opportunities and the risks, pros and cons of everything, and then letting them decide what the best route to go is.
I think it happened to a friend of mine that he worked with his mom his entire adult 20s 30s and they didn't have a succession plan in place and the mom suddenly passed away and it's like and then
or what if the succession plan is to leave it to your kid and they don't want to enter the business. Correct. Or they're just not capable of maybe they are in the business and they just don't have the skill set.
It's fascinating to me though how many business owners, I mean, the exit is guaranteed. There's no way around it. So it's like it should be something that should be talked about and planned for. So I appreciate what you do and I'm thankful obviously to have you in my network. Let's talk about these things then. Key man, what is it?
So
who needs it?
I'd say pretty much every business owner.
Okay.
Right. So key man can be many things. Even the business owner themselves can be a key person. And most often they are the most key person. Mm-hmm. Right. So the way to think about key person planning can be twofold. It can be, and the overarching theme is, I need to make sure that if something happens to this person, whether it is them leaving, and there are key person strategies actually that act as retention tools for your key people so they won't leave, right? Because in the world of 401ks, group benefits, you can't discriminate amongst who gets what. There's a whole host of other strategies that actually you can customize and almost act as a golden handcuff on these employees so that to entice them not to leave. So there's that component. There's the risk of them leaving, but there's the risk of them getting sick, getting injured, passing away, whatever it may be. And you have to think about what's the impact of that going to be on the business. And it can be twofold. It can be from a revenue and an income standpoint. Maybe they're a business development person or a salesperson that is driving a large portion of the revenue, or that person is integral from a relationship standpoint in the business's relationships. And if that person goes away, the business will fall apart because you'll lose the relationships. Or it can be operationally, right? If the COO of a company who's not an externally typically facing person, they're dealing with the operations of the business, something happens to them, the business is going to take a hit, right? And so few things with a key person is, one is it protects the business from the loss of that person. It can provide a source of capital to make up either for lost revenue or to be used to go out and recruit and find a replacement for that person without having to deplete the capital and cash flow of the business. And that's really the overarching theme with key person is you are protecting the business itself and making sure that the value of the business is not affected by the loss of a key person.
Makes sense. So
and I'm glad you use key person because it used to be key man and other stuff.
I didn't even realize that, but it's so much of these things, and that's why, again, I'm super passionate about it because I think so much of it is lack of education.
Yeah, and you know what one of the biggest gaps is, right? And people typically key person, they think of insurance on that person, but they only think of life insurance. The risk of that person getting sick is substantially higher than that risk of that person passing away.
Typically first, correct.
Right? And so even with individuals, right, we talk about income protection, you're the biggest asset. And, that's disability insurance. Right. No one thinks of it because they think of a handicap sticker and they got injured or whatever it may be, but you got sick, you can't work. Well, you can get sick and not work and now the business suffers. Right? It's not your income, it's the business.
Right. It's good. Buy sell then. When does that apply?
Buy sell really relates to you extracting the value out of the business if either one of your partners, if you're in if there's multiple owners, if that partner passes away, retires, leaves, gets sick, any of the same reasons we just talked about on key person, right? When you have a relationship with partners, that person has equity, right? And if that person's no longer there, someone in that person's world, whether it's their wife, their kids, could be anybody, is going to step into that person's shoes and now have a say in your business. And that person might not have any clue in the world what to do to your business, or they might intentionally try to ruin it or whatever.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, business partners, especially in families,
families is the hardest.
It's the hardest because it doesn't mean that you want to be in business with your brother-in-law or your sister-in-law or a parent.
I ask every business owner if they're in a partnership, right, or corporation, whatever it is. If you have multiple owners, how do you feel about your partner's spouse?
Right.
Would you want to be in business with them? Right. 9 times out of 10 is no.
No.
In some professions, you can't be. Right. Lawyers, you have to be a lawyer to own someone's share in the business. And so there's two parts of buy-sell planning, right? 9 times out of 10, you meet with someone, they say, I've done my buy-sell planning. Do you know what that means? That they have a legal agreement that specifies what will happen.
It's not funded.
It's not funded. You need both, right? You can wipe your, with that paper if there's no funding because the business is still going to have to, you're going to deplete the capital of the business to buy that person out if you don't have the funding.
There it is, people. The agreement is not enough.
Yeah. And it's not just partners, by the way. You can have a one-way buy-sell, meaning you're the business owner by yourself. The business is worth money, right? And let's say you get disabled or you get sick, right? If you're the sole person running that business, the value is going to plummet. And so by having a one-way buy-sell plan in place, funded with a strategy, you can actually extract the value from the business.
Interesting. What is there a third version of this that would apply for?
There are a lot of versions that I don't want to put your audience to sleep.
But those are the two most popular.
There was actually a significant Supreme Court decision. It was either last year or 2 years ago. Time is flying by. That significantly changed the buy-sell planning landscape in terms of how they should be structured. I'm not going to go down the technical nuances of it, but if you have a buy-sell plan, prior to that ruling, it's important to make sure that it was called the Connolly decision to make sure that it's reviewed.
Do those have, or I'm assuming they have to be revisited? You
would think, right?
Right.
You would think that the same way if you get divorced that you're going to retitle your beneficiaries. You know how many people don't change the beneficiaries on some of their stuff after divorce? A lot.
A lot.
Right? And so, you would think things would get changed.
I know. I'm in the same space.
But as you accumulate things, it doesn't need to be wealth, right? Like think about your junk drawer in your house. right? You probably clean it once every couple of months, and then all of a sudden 3 months later go by and you go, oh my God, it's a disaster again. And you have to go digging through to find stuff. Well, the more stuff you have, the harder it is to find if there's issues in that stuff. And so, that's another thing that we do with business owners is, and everybody, not just business owners, is when we're doing reviews at whatever frequency, whether it's annual, quarterly, whatever it may be, it's asking those questions like, what has changed in your world? What's changed in your life? And that will then lead down a conversation around, okay, we need to make sure X, Y, and Z is changed, buttoned up, whatever it may be.
Where does trust and wills and estates come into play on the business side? And I know you're not an estate or a trust attorney, but
sure,
you have some knowledge about that.
So again, I don't want to try and
get superficial answer. Yeah.
Superficial, right? One, right off the bat, trusts are better than wills.
Okay.
Right. Because a will, if you pass away, that's still going to probate.
Right.
It's still going to court.
It could be contested.
It could be contested. It's public knowledge. So everyone now has access to what you have, not just your business, but they can see everything.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
Creditors can come out of the woodworks.
Oh.
You see the celebrities all the time that, not even creditors, celebrities pass away with no will, and every family member all of a sudden has a claim to that.
Correct.
I think Prince was one of the biggest ones, if you kind of think, look back a few years.
It's wild.
Yeah. So that's like the will space. Trust keeps everything private, right? So, many times people will own their business interest in a trust, multiple trusts potentially. Then there's irrevocable trust also. So there's a difference between the two. And irrevocable trust really comes into play when, there's several reasons. One can be that your net worth is over a certain amount and you're trying to do estate tax planning, because once something is in an irrevocable trust, it's now out of your estate. So many times business owners will actually gift their business interest into one of those trusts when it's at a low value. And then this way, if something happens to them, even if the business grows to $200 million, their family's not getting taxed on that.
Do you see why this is so complex? The people that are doing this out on their own are just wild people, because you're guaranteed overpaying and unprotected somewhere.
Overpaying for sure.
And definitely unprotected. There's so many strategies available that the common person that is running a business head down does not know.
But that's where bringing in advisors helps. Right?
Business
owners are great at what they do.
Yes.
If we go back to when I was in law school, I'm like, these are going to be great attorneys. They don't know anything about money.
Correct.
And
I would venture to say that I've heard that they're actually really bad at business. That's what I've heard from attorneys themselves. So it's not me saying it.
I think every industry there's good and bad.
Correct. Yes. I actually have heard that dentists are the ones that are in the most debt coming out of school.
They are.
Yeah.
Because depending on where they go, they actually have to take out loans for their equipment that they use in dental school.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I know
Isn't that crazy?
That is
You're paying
crazy.
Tuition
and the loan. I know that from a loan perspective on equipment, because their practices are so heavy on equipment, I've always understood that that's a challenge. This is fascinating, first of all. And second of all, I absolutely love the play on words of the business name, because it's so good, because you really are connecting the dots. Like, it's so complex. It really is complex.
And I think, though, the complexity is there, but I think the relationship component and the ability to, keywords in relationship, relate to the people that you work with can break down the complexity a little bit. And that's was probably the biggest impetus behind the brand, is that a lot of people think they might not have enough money to work with an advisor, or that person's too busy, or whatever it may be. And really the interaction with my clients is probably one of the biggest, fulfillments that I receive.
If someone is in the market for a new advisor, what questions should they be asking of the advisor to know if they're the right one?
Something that I'm going to be implementing myself, actually, is to almost come up with a case study of a client fact pattern. Not for the lawyers out there to bring back memories of law school, but you get a fact pattern, ask them how they would navigate it or explain it to the client. see if that aligns with your culture and the way that you would want something to be explained to your clients. Because if it's not, it's probably not going to work out with that person. You know, I would really try to identify if they are a salesperson, a true salesperson, or an advisor that has the ability to implement strategies. And there's no right or wrong way, right? There's plenty of people in my business that are wildly successful as salespeople. And actually, to break it down even further, or go more broad rather, are they transactional or not? Right? You can be a transactional advisor and be unbelievable. I'm a long-term person, and so I love working with clients from startup to exit and being that guide along the way. And I'm okay if my financial reward for it is not going to happen until years down the road, because I'm picking people that I want to work with, but also I think being able to navigate them through all of these things that we're talking about that most people aren't aware of just adds tremendous value. And that's why we lead with planning, advice, and guidance, and fit the right strategies at the right time versus being a one-trick pony and this is what I'm going to offer you because this is all I can offer you.
I think that to your point of being there from startup to exit, it's more that's kind of my point to, like, we're in a place where there's a lot of money and a lot of people and a lot of millions, and there's people that, you know, only want to serve the ultra high net worth or the people with, but like,
I've got some 9-figure families that I work with, then I've got people making $150,000, $200,000 a year, not
because
even
you're
a business
in it,
owner.
Right. But you're in it for that. That's the point. Like that's also,
oddly enough, those are the people that actually like appreciate the advice more often than the, you know, billionaire families.
Right. I think that there's a level of passion that it takes to help a small business owner, even a medium-sized business owner, right? Because there's just different levels of understanding about what's needed, it's patience, right? You need a little bit more patience, especially I'm assuming in certain industries as well that require some more hand-holding. I think a lot of business owners maybe don't even think that they're as successful as like they are.
I think most people have some form of imposter syndrome. It's just, if you go from starting something to all of a sudden being worth a lot, it's kind of hard not to.
Especially when you're head down working.
Yeah.
Where it's like the years pass by and then you're just like, oh my God, how did I get here?
I think I remember my first year in this business, maybe I made $50,000 and now I look back at me, oh my God.
Right. How'd you survive? Right? I'm not asking you that question. I'm saying we ask ourselves like, oh my God, how did I survive that year? Right.
Yeah.
It's wild.
My answer was hustling. I was working a law job at the same time.
That's fascinating. First of all, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Last question for you. Which I think you get, it might be the same answer, but I'm going to ask it again just in case. What is the best piece of business advice that you have for someone new in the industry? I know you gave me what all your business owners have in common, but
new in my industry?
No, in any industry, like any client that you have that if they're calling you and they're saying, Chad, I'm struggling, like, give me a pep talk. What are you giving?
I'd say it's a combination of having a clearly defined vision and mission that you can come back to, because every time you get a bump in the road or someone says no, or if you get 5 no's in a row or whatever it may be, you can start to be pretty down on yourself. And if you can go back and look at, okay, this is why I'm doing it, or this is my purpose, this is my vision, I think you're just grooming yourself for better success. I also think starting with the end in mind is really important, because many times people just jump into business. And the other thing we find too, I would say, is stay focused on your business. Because something I see a lot of amongst every successful business owner I work with is that everyone in their world comes to them with an opportunity for a new business or a new idea or the new shiny whatever it may be. And they start to divert their time, attention, resources, whatever it may be, away from their business. and they lose focus. And everyone's guilty of it. I've been guilty of it. But coming back to, again, the vision, the mission, and starting with the end in mind, a lot of those, I guess they're cliche for a reason, but I think consistency over time and playing the long game is, probably to tie it all together, right? If you want to be a successful business owner, you have to play the long game. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be periods of being flat. And to your point, pick your head up every now and then and see where you are compared to a year ago, compared to 6 months ago. I think having, I try to have a quarterly, just check in on the pulse of the business, because you can get so caught up in the day to day that you lose focus, or have someone that'll do it for you and remind you, because if you're the kind of person that is difficult to check in on the business, and for a long time I was, I would have support be like, this is, where the business has come from. This is where it is. This is where you talked about wanting it to go. And just make sure that what you're doing is aligning with those things, because it's very easy to get diverted.
I 54 episodes in, and you're the first person to give that advice. So I love that. The advice of don't lose focus. Keep your main thing your main thing. That is such critical advice. And to your point, yes, opportunities pop up.
Look, it doesn't mean don't have other verticals.
Correct.
Right? It doesn't mean don't expand. But it means maybe finding someone that other vertical or whatever it may be is someone you could partner with. And just when the opportunity comes, you say, hey, I've got a partner who handles that. Right? You can still generate revenue from other opportunities without having to divert your focus or your attention. Now, again, you're going to have to trust that person. Same way you're hiring someone, you're going to have buy-sell planning with that person, whatever it may be. But so I'm not saying don't say no to opportunities, because the most successful opportunities have their hands in lots of things. And many times, they'll go into 10 things. It all takes is one for it to take off. Right. So you don't want to completely neglect, but you want your main focus to be on your business.
It's great advice. I think it's timely advice too, just because everything now is so shiny.
Everything
there's
is
a
at
million.
The stock market's at an all-time high. Crypto's at an all-time
Everything.
high.
There's
Real
so
estate's
many
at an
things.
all-time high. Like,
it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming that you can get caught up in these things, especially in this era where we're living in of social media. Where everyone's a guru, everyone's making $1 million, $2 million.
So something else. It's interesting you say that. I'm starting to find that my most successful clients are not on social. They're on LinkedIn because it's great for business.
Sure.
Right, and maybe they have a YouTube channel where someone else is posting for them, but they're not doom scrolling Facebook and Instagram looking at, oh, this person's on vacation here, or they're focused in on their stuff.
I also love that you said that, because I think that in life, I was having this conversation with my dad. He told me life is a pendulum. It always swings one way and it comes back, right? And we went this way of social media and being ultra connected, and COVID obviously made it worse without us being in person. And then all we had was the apps. But I think there's a pendulum of people getting off of it, people coming back to real life, people wanting to go to dinner.
Being in an office.
Like there is I would say, building a culture like we discussed already, culture, accountability, all of that.
It happens with fashion.
Right.
It happens with
always
everything.
Always.
There's going to be a period of time where people are walking around with a bunch of mustaches everywhere.
Yeah, great. There's I can't wait for that. All of that stuff is so hard already for a business owner to, the human aspect of a business. Doing it remote is another challenge that most business owners are not equipped to do.
Well, talk about not picking your head up. You don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You can have 8 meetings in a day and not lift your head up. And oh my God, it's 6 o'clock.
Right. And I do think that there's a layer of I do not think it's a coincidence that some of your most successful are not wasting their life away like the majority of people doom scrolling.
Yeah.
They're using their time either to work on themselves, on their business, probably on their families. They probably have a good balance with their family as well. A life and work integration. How do you feel about that? Balance, or is it balance or is it integration?
I think pure balance by itself is really hard to achieve because there's always going to be something that's pulling at you a little bit more, right? So, whether it's family or your health or your business, there's something that's going to take a priority, right? If you lose a loved one, if you go through a divorce, if you get diagnosed with something illness-wise, your attention from one area is going to be diverted. So I think a lot of it is more on the integration side, but accepting that sometimes you might be more focused on work, sometimes you might be more focused on your family. But the same way you have a business vision, have your own personal vision of what you want and check in on it. Something that there's another book, The 12-Week Year, and it really breaks your year down into 4 separate years. And so essentially recognizing the opportunity that you have 4 times a year to reset, and you're breaking huge goals down into meaningful goals throughout the year and tactics, but also as part of the review of each 12-week year is scoring how do you feel in each of 6 areas: spiritual, family, health, business. And if you deviate significantly or you're scoring low on one of them, I met with someone I respect a lot, one of the owners of Coastal Wealth, and he coaches me on this sometimes, and he realized, hey, you scored really low last quarter on your personal. And so every Friday when we have our check-in, it was guiding me, you need to have a plan on your personal side this time. Your business is running fine. You're going to be okay this quarter regardless. Prioritize your personal stuff. So I think it's not necessarily balanced because it's never going to be perfectly balanced, especially if you have little kids. It's never going to be balanced.
Right, there's no balance.
Never going to be balanced.
There's no balance there.
Right?
That's fascinating. I think that there's so much I didn't ask.
And Gary Vee, the biggest social media proponent probably there is in terms of advertising and marketing. He did a podcast either this week or last week, his most recent one, where the trend, and he's always claiming to be the greatest trend predictor out there. And he actually is pretty good at it.
He predicted TikTok. So he was right.
So the trend that he's predicting now is the interaction amongst people. It's not generating revenue through advertising and social media. It's events, right? And getting together. You saw that podcast?
I saw it because he was talking about how, again, it's a pendulum. He talking about how even when he talks about AI and people are afraid AI is going to take a job. Yeah, it will. But it also will create other jobs. And so he was talking about how
make you more efficient at yours.
Correct. There's going to be, there's already an app where it's somebody to walk with you. If you're lonely, you could pay someone to walk with you, right? Which is absurd. But I mean, the loneliness epidemic is one of the biggest health crises in the world. That is a fact. And so it's he talks about that type of stuff. And he said, even when
it's weird, it's almost 2 years since I've been divorced. And when I don't have the kids and I'm in my house, it is a lonely, empty feeling. And it still takes a lot to get used to.
And it's 2 days a week, 2 days at a time, right? Yeah. Imagine your life being like that, right? People are craving human interaction. And so he had talked about how when he started creating content and everyone thought he was going to be crazy and he was predicting all this stuff, the creation of content created millions of jobs, right? Yeah. Now everyone had a film crew behind them, right? Before it was just celebrities.
The amount of business owners that think they're now just trying to get followers, it's unbelievable. They're kind of diverting themselves away from their practice and what they're good at and trying to create a persona of something that they think they need to do because that's what had been working. But if you're not being true to yourself in doing that, it's going to fall apart.
It's not going to last. It also
authenticity matters.
Authenticity matters. And also the channels, the methods, the strategies, the algorithms are so temporary. They're changing so fast. It's a full-time job. That's why I'm in the Daily Drip. Besides all the other reasons. But really, Nicole and Romy are giving us literally a masterclass. I tell them all the time, this is a master's degree in creating a brand and showing up online and using the internet to amplify what we're doing in person, right? And so they've done it. And I don't have to worry about predicting anything because they do it for me. So that's it's necessary. It's almost like its own arm of a business at this point. It's
necessary. Told you before we started, I'm hiring someone specifically to do that, but I'm not going to divert my attention
from it. No, that's absolutely something you delegate. Thank you for being here. I know that I asked you that last question. I was like, this is the last one. And then I asked you 5 more. I have so many other questions to ask you. We didn't even talk about like partnerships and like all that fun stuff. So I'll definitely have you back. Tell everybody where they can find you.
They can find me on, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook business page, both KINNECT Financial, YouTube channels coming out soon.
Nice. I'll put it all in the show notes.
KINNECTyourwealth.com. The show notes is probably the best.
I'll put it all in the show notes there.
If one thing that you probably know about me is that, or at this point, is I'm not too big in the self-promotion. Most of my business is generated just from, talk about authenticity. Mm-hmm. It's people that know me that just are making introductions because of the work that we're doing, rather than, scan here to find me here or whatever it may be.
Right. And I love that. And
that's why I kind of stumbled when you asked the question.
Yeah. I'm like, you're like, I don't know. Do I have a website?
I'm not going to give my phone number.
I'm going to put his phone number and send him all the chocolate cookies that you have. So to let him know you listened to the episode. Thank you for being here, friend.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you.
You're welcome. It's a blast.